Howdy folks, hope you're all having a good one, and welcome back to World of Warships with Rear Admiral Jingles. Today we have a Tier 8 domination match here on the hotspot map, starring, that name looks kind of Dutch, so I'm going to guess it's pronounced Energetica, and I'm going to go with that until proven wrong. Although it does seem kind of weird that a Dutchman is flying a French flag off the back of a Japanese destroyer, but yeah, we're going to stick with Energetica. So he starts off this battle by disabling his anti-aircraft guns and secondaries, which is generally a good idea in a destroyer, particularly when you're in a destroyer with anti-aircraft guns as catastrophically bad as the Akatsuki. Technically, there are ships in the game that have worse AA than this. The British Tier 5 battleship, for example, HMS Agincourt, has no anti-aircraft guns at all. I don't really see that as being a problem for the Agincourt though, because if you're going to have bad AA, you're better off having none at all. And the Akatsuki here has really, really bad AA. It's armed with a grand total of 4 25mm guns. And the only thing that they're going to do is give your position away when they open up, because they're not going to shoot anything down. There is no carrier in this game, of course, but that doesn't mean that battleship and cruiser players aren't going to launch spotter planes or patrol fighters in order to try to see which destroyer captain forgot to turn their AA guns off. Because the only thing that 25mm tracer is going to do is alert enemy players to the fact that, oh look, there's a destroyer over there. Energetica here has played 4,000 random battles and nearly 2,000 ranked battles. Not a massive amount, but he's been around the block a few times. And in all of those battles, there's one achievement that he's never received until today. And he's going to have to work really, really hard for it. Almost entirely due to an exceptionally good submarine player on the enemy team. That guy over there in the USS Salmon. This guy is going to be the biggest pain in the arse imaginable. And I mean, that's fine. He's doing his job. That's what he's for. It's kind of ironic though, because hunting submarines is basically what destroyers are for. And Energetica is in a destroyer, and that's a submarine. But, well, this isn't real life. This is World of Warships. And trust me, the shoe is going to be entirely on the other foot for almost the entire duration of this battle. Which is kind of frustrating for all kinds of different reasons. I mean, for a start, he's in a Tier 7 destroyer in a Tier 8 battle, so he's been up-tiered. I mean, it could be worse. He could be a Tier 6. But if you're going to be up-tiered in a World of Warships battle, it's probably better to be in a destroyer, because stealth. However, obviously he doesn't outspot the submarine, which is fair, but he also doesn't outspot either of the two destroyers on the enemy team, despite being a Japanese torpedo destroyer. See, it's really weird. I mean, he's playing this ship because he's grinding his way up to the Shimakaze, which is, for a long time, the stealthiest ship in the game. May still be, but if not, it's still bloody stealthy. And yet when they split the Japanese destroyers into torpedo boats and gunboats, the line that leads to the stealthy torpedo destroyer line, the one that he's playing, has worse stealth at Tier 7 than the gunboat, the Shiratsuyu, on the enemy team. And he has exactly the same stealth as the Xianyang, the Pan-Asian destroyer on the enemy team. So he doesn't actually have a stealth advantage over anything on the enemy team aside from the cruisers and the battleships, despite being in what is supposed to be the stealthy Japanese destroyer line. And the captain of that submarine, the USS Salmon over there, oh, he knows it. He just keeps doing this because he can. Pops up, spots him, disappears again. Waits for the rest of the team to do this. Constantly forcing Energetica to use the smoke screen. I mean, since you're smoked up anyway, you may as well shoot. Japanese destroyer guns, the 127mm guns, I think. Terrible turret rotation speed. Horribly slow reload, but the individual shells, well, the high explosive at least, they do hit kind of hard. He has been pinged, of course, which means if there are any homing torpedoes on the way, he's in trouble, and he will not see them because he's in smoke. But he really, really wants to get rid of that submarine. So he takes the risk to come out and shoot. And he does score a few good hits. and forces a fire, and forces the guy to submerge. However, I'm not entirely sure it's going to be worth the cost, because he is of course spotted in front of a lot of enemy ships, and that's ended up costing him about half of his health. And they're not done shooting at him yet. Oh, and he's pinged again. Okay, he's managed to go undetected. The good thing about having really shitty guns with terrible range is that when you do fire, it's not like it's going to massively negatively impact your surface detection range, because if the guns are only firing to a range of 10.4 kilometers, then you only have to be 10.4 kilometers away from the nearest enemy in line of sight to go undetected. So I suppose there's that. And I'm trying to find a silver lining here. I mean, fair play to the salmon. He is and will be doing a fantastic job of, you know, every now and then just popping up, spotting targets. And with a Scharnhorst 43 over there, and the secondaries on that thing are no joke. Because he's only got 6,000 health left, he cannot afford to get spotted again. Fortunately, he does have pretty good torpedoes. I mean, as you'd expect, he's in the torpedo destroyer line. Although, ironically, they're not really any better than the torpedoes that the gunboat destroyer at Tier 7 gets. You know, the one with better stealth. So, but they're still fairly good, with a pretty good reload. And once upgraded, decent speed. And a fair amount of damage, and I'm pretty sure at least 3 of those are going to catch the Scharnhorst 43. Yep, that was really good news. Caused a flood, damaged the engine. The Scharnhorst has just used his damage control. And for the first time in this battle, Energetica gets to do what he wanted to do the whole time. Torpedo some big fat stupid battleships while spotting for his team. And of course the Irian back there wastes no time whatsoever in unloading some high explosive on the damaged Scharnhorst in an effort to light a permanent fire now that his damage control's on cooldown. Ordinarily, cruisers like the Miyoko back there and the Irian, slightly further over to the left of the screen, would be in a really dangerous situation trying to take on a battleship, but the Scharnhorst only has 11-inch guns and can't overmatch their bows. The Scharnhorst, of course, is using his damage repair party. The question is, can they get some fires set and finish him? You can see the deep water torpedoes going in there from the friendly Irian. But between him and the Miyoko, they've managed to get some fires set. Oh, it looks like Energetica. This is probably the frustration showing. He pops his smoke. He's only got 1 charge of smoke left after this, by the way. And he does land some shots and get some damage done, but it's the fires set by the Miyoko that finished off the Scharnhorst before he could escape into cover around the side of the island. And of course, since Energetica here was the one doing the spotting, the only thing that they can see... Oh, and there go more deep water torpedoes from the Irian. Shots out from the enemy Irian, who the only way they're going to spot him is for Energetica to abandon that smoke. So that's an almost complete waste of a smoke screen, and oh look, he's spotted again. Or more accurately, outspotted again. It is of course the USS Salmon, who spotted him in front of the enemy Irian. So he's done his job again, submerges again before anybody can do anything about it, allowing the Irian to score a couple of hits in the brief spotting window while the submarine was on the surface or at periscope depth. Oh look, he's just popped up again. Yep, and he can keep doing this all day if he needs to. Now you might be sitting there thinking, you know, Jingles, it seems a little bit easy for a submarine to be able to keep doing this to a destroyer, especially considering that submarines are supposed to be the ones running and hiding from destroyers and not the other way around. And well, you're not wrong. But why don't you see this happening more often, if it's that easy? And I'm not saying it's difficult, because the submarine captain, and I don't want to try to take anything away from him here, because he is playing a very good game. He's not doing anything particularly complicated. He's just screening his allies, and then popping up every now and then to spot destroyers for them. All he's doing is making sure that he's closest to the enemy than any of the other ships on his team. And when they need targets, he just pops up and gives them targets. But if it's that easy, why doesn't it happen more often, Jingles? Well, it doesn't happen more often because there's no real polite way of saying this. Most submarine players are bad. And I'm not singling them out. I mean, most players in general are pretty bad. But it's impressive what you can actually do in a submarine when the captain is capable of thinking and breathing at the same time. Oh, Energetica just spotted the enemy Irian's deep-water torpedoes, probably in plenty of time for the friendly Irian to take steps to avoid them. Let me just take charge of the camera here and check. Yep, good stuff. But hang on a minute, Jingles, I hear you cry. How come when I try to do this shit in my submarines, I get pounded to death by battleship and cruiser depth charge attack planes? Yeah, that's fair. And again, to be completely fair, the enemy USS Salmon captain doesn't have that problem because none of the ships on this side of the map have depth charge attack planes. In fact, of the three of them here, Energetica, the Irian and the Miyoko, he's the only one that even has depth charges. He doesn't get the option to launch them from 7 kilometers away. And of course, that's exactly what the Salmon's counting on. And that's why he's positioning the way he is. As long as he can just form a screen in front of ships like the Fiji over there, there is absolutely no way Energetica is going to try to close in for a depth charge attack, because it would be suicide. It's not really the submarine that he's afraid of. It's all of the ships that the submarine's spotting for. So even though the Salmon admittedly has had the big advantage during this battle of never having to worry about depth charge attacks, he's still doing everything right. Energetica, I'm sure, would dearly love to leave this smokescreen in order to spot for his allies, but he's not going to do that with the Salmon so close. That very suspicious looking smokescreen over there is of course concealing the enemy Fiji, an extremely dangerous ship, even if it is just tier 7 in a tier 8 battle. The Irian pushes through the smoke, probably thinking, well, if you're not going to spot them, I'll do it, but well, he's not spotting anything, is he, because the Fiji's hidden in smoke. The Fiji can see him though. He's landing shots on target. I wonder if you can guess who's spotting for him. And there is absolutely nothing that Energetica can do about it, because I guarantee you if he gets any closer than this, he's going to be next. Irian's torpedoes, however, aren't going to hit anything, for two reasons. We just saw the spot of wake there indicating exactly where the Salmon is, and those torpedoes passed right by him, so they were probably spotted. Plus the Fiji captain is just as capable of thinking and breathing at the same time as the Salmon captain, and he's tucked in around the side of the island. Energetica, there he is, spots him. Well, it's not really so much that he's spotting the Salmon. The Salmon is once again popping up in order to spot him, but he does manage to get some shots out with the rear turrets and sets a fire. Once again, of course, totally worth the risk for the Salmon, got away with minimal damage, and even though Energetica didn't take a huge amount of damage from the Fiji, he was forced away again. And of course, you know, obvious torpedo target is obvious, the Fiji is taking steps to ensure that he doesn't get hit by those torpedoes either. Now the game itself hasn't actually been going too badly for Energetica's team. They have 3 of the 4 cap circles, and they have kill parity, and they are a couple of 100 points ahead. However, a couple of things are happening here. If you have a look at the minimap, you'll see that the German destroyer, the friendly Angela Merkel over there, yes, I call it the Angela Merkel, it's my video, deal with it. Despite being right on the border of the cap circle at Charlie, he appears to be taking steps to ensure that he doesn't actually go anywhere near it. The second thing that happened is the Miyoko just got gunned down by the Fiji. The Fiji, who's still unspotted, by the way. Gunned him down from stealth, with the Salmon, once again, feeding him targeting information. The enemy Xianyang, which is probably what Angela Merkel over there is chasing after, did get reduced to low health. But somebody is now flipping the cap circle at Alpha. No prizes for guessing who that is. And it's not the Fiji. No, the Fiji is still lurking behind that island somewhere, waiting to nuke anybody who tries to interrupt the Salmon as he flips that cap at Alpha. Xianyang just got spotted. Took another hit, didn't die however, and the enemy team now have 2 of the 4 cap circles. It's still not enough though. Energetica's team is still going to win on points, as long as nothing changes. The enemy team are either going to need to take more cap circles, or they're going to need to start sinking more ships. Oh, there's the Fiji. Absolutely nothing that Energetica can do about it, of course. You do not get involved in a gunfight with the Fiji when you're in the destroyer and you only have 4,000 health left. All he can really hope to do here is close the distance, look for an opportunity while taking extreme care to try to not get spotted in return, because he does not know where that Salmon is. The Salmon, of course, has a pretty good idea of where he is, because he was just spotted a minute ago, and there's only really one direction that he can be going. And judging by the amount of health he has remaining, the Kansas over there, well, his fate is probably going to be sealed long before Energetica can do anything about it. He does, however, very briefly, reacquire the Fiji. And providing he waits for the midship section of the Fiji to be out of line of sight, which it is now, he can risk a shot. And he gets spotted anyway. Surprisingly, that is not the salmon. That was the Xian Yang, hightailing it across the gap there and going undetected on 69 health. Of course, the Xian Yang went undetected, so that means that Energetica goes undetected too, because line of sight works both ways. But that does mean that there's only him and the Angela Merkel left, and, well, yeah, caught in a crossfire between the salmon, the Fiji, and the smoked-up Xian Yang, he goes down. And that means there's just Energetica left against 4 enemies. And he only has 4,000 health. There is some good news here. The Xian Yang only has 60 health left, and the salmon did take some depth charge damage. But if the salmon captain remains consistent, he's going to be using the Fiji as a shield, and there is absolutely no way that Energetica is going to be able to close in and finish the salmon off with a depth charge attack. Which is why he's going for the Xian Yang. Thinking, because it seems logical, oh, and he's missed with his first salvo, that the surviving enemy ships are going to be scattering to take the cap circles. Because that's the logical thing to do. If there's 4 of you against 1 destroyer, there are still 2 cap circles up for grabs, you grab those cap circles. So Energetica, counting on that being the enemy team's plan, rushed up here, and it was a risky move, but he only needed to hit the Xian Yang once to sink him. And he got away with it, because it appears that that is what the enemy team are doing, rather than rushing down here to intercept him. Ironically, of the 3 enemy ships remaining, the one that he really doesn't need to worry about, because he could absolutely take him in a fight, the Monarch, is the one furthest away flipping the cap circle at Delta. Sadly, and fairly typically, despite Energetica not messing around in this cap circle and trying to be clever, and instead ensuring that he's taken Billy Big steps as far away as possible from the likely avenue of approach of anybody on the enemy team capable of thinking and breathing at the same time, he gets caught by the Fiji anyway. And he's been pinged by the salmon. They're both coming back to get him. They're doing the double team act again. He's managed to get out of spotting range of the Fiji. He still has a 200-point lead. But because he was forced out of the cap circle here at Alpha, which falls back into enemy control, and with the Monarch flipping the cap circle at Delta, a single cap circle with 2 minutes remaining is not going to be enough for him to win on points. He has to sink something. And the easy target, the Monarch, is all the way over on the other side of the map. So he needs to either sink the salmon or the Fiji. And he needs to do it quick, which means he needs to do it within shooting range of the Fiji, and he only has 3,000 health left. And that's when the salmon does it again, and that's exactly what Energetica was waiting for. This does of course mean he is spotted on the surface in open water. Well, obviously on the surface he's a destroyer, not a submarine, but inside shooting range of the Fiji. And he's doing the hippie hippie shake. Notice how he killed the throttle there to make the Fiji overshoot? Yeah, he's been around the block a couple of times. He knows what he's doing. This is risky as all hell though. I mean, he had absolutely no choice. He needed a kill in order to be able to win on points, but then he also needed to survive. Unfortunately for the enemy team, I think that's the... Hang on, Energetica, what you do? No, it's alright, it's alright. He knows what his surface detection range is. This is fine. He's pushing it close, but it's fine. Unfortunately for the salmon, I mean, it's easy to say the salmon threw the game at the end there, but he didn't really. And Energetica is congratulating the salmon for how well he played the game there in chat. And while you might be able to argue that he really didn't need to feed Energetica a kill there, it's not entirely clear whether or not the point situation would have been in the enemy team's favour with the amount of time remaining and the amount of cap circles that they have. I mean, you can sit down and work it out if you've got the time and a calculator, or you're just especially good at mental arithmetic. He was 150 points ahead with 2 minutes to go, but the enemy team had 3 cap circles, so they were gaining 9 points every 3 seconds, and he was only gaining 3. The point being, you can sit down and work it out if you've got the time. The salmon captain didn't have the time. He had to make a decision based on the fact that his team were 150 points behind with 2 minutes to go, and the only surviving enemy ship was an extremely low health destroyer. And even if he died as a result of spotting him for the Fiji, which he did, he had every expectation that the Fiji would have been capable of finishing off a 3,000 hit point Japanese destroyer. Unfortunately, he was wrong. Fortunately for Energetica, he was wrong. And so, despite being successfully cock-blocked by this Fijian salmon double team for basically this entire battle, Energetica wins and achieves his first Solo Warrior award in nearly 8,000 battles played. So congratulations, of course, to Energetica, and I really do have a lot of sympathy for that USS Salmon captain because, well, he played extremely well. He really didn't do anything wrong, and you could even argue that the one thing that he maybe did wrong wasn't actually wrong. And while he never got a single kill, he was probably responsible for at least 5 of the kills that his teammates got. And despite playing a basically perfect game, it still wasn't good enough to finish higher than 4th place on the team. And I don't think it's because his 3 teammates who placed higher than him played especially well. I mean, they certainly didn't play badly. Congratulations to all 3 of them, the Monarch, the Fiji, and the Xianyang. It's just that, well, spotting damage in World of Warships isn't worth shit. So it doesn't really matter how good of a job of it you do, unless it results in a win, you're pretty much just wasting your time. That's not to say that you shouldn't try to play like the Salmon captain did, by the way, because usually it does result in a win, in which case it's absolutely worth it. Not today, though, which is a shame. And also not, because it did result in the first Solo Warrior award that Energetica has achieved in nearly 6,000 games played in World of Warships. So congratulations for that. Hope you all enjoyed it, and as always, take care, and I'll catch you next time.